Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Riddhi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here, Riddhi.
Thank you for having me.
An honor to have you. So, Riddhi, what is your sort of 1-minute introduction about what you do?
Okay, well, my name is Riddhi. I am a consultant within the HR advisory team here at KPMG, and a colleague and friend of Karen's.
Woohoo!
So that's my 20-second introduction. I could keep going, I guess.
But we would dig into
we
that.
We can be a bit more specific about that in the next few minutes.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. So we really want to know what kind of child Riddhi was like growing up. So take me to the beginning.
Oh,
what were you like?
Yeah, beginning.
Yeah, you were born and then?
and then this. And then now.
Full-grown adult.
yeah, it's all a blur. So I grew up in Chennai, in the south of India, and very sort of normal middle class upbringing, had a good school. And the fun fact there is I went to the same school from kindergarten way up till I graduated year 12.
Yeah.
So I was in the same school for 14 years, because 2 years of kindergarten. Yeah.
Oh.
So and this school is like a 3-minute walk from where I lived, and we never moved. And so that was my little bubble, growing up. So obviously pros and cons, right? Just very familiar with that bubble, but then anytime I would go outside the bubble, it would really be I'm outside my comfort zone, which I think really shaped the way that when I did want to explore things as maybe a teenager or an adult, it really sort of changed the way I saw things, or I really wanted to step out of the bubble more once I grew up. But I had a pretty event-free child, in the sense that everything was normal, just went normal pace. I did play some sports as a kid, so I was more sports rather than things like music or dance, although a lot of my friends were into Indian classical music and dance. That's pretty popular, but I stuck to the sports, although I kept changing sports. So that's another thing about me, is that I never sort of stuck to one thing and tried to master it.
Yeah.
So did karate when I was really quite young. So that was kind of my parents.
We can fight after this.
No, we cannot. I cannot. You might be able to. So when I was really young, so my parents sort of started me into that, and then I was playing table tennis. Really, I still like to play table tennis. That's one of the things that I would still continue to play. Badminton.
Oh,
so very Asian sports, right?
Yeah, Asian sports. Yeah.
And then I started to play soccer, football, which we call it.
Yeah.
So I really like football, although I'm not very good at it. It's just, I think, a very nice sport to watch now.
Yeah.
Being the World Cup. So that's me.
Cool. And wondered why you didn't get into dance or music. Did you ever try music? I can imagine you playing the flute or clarinet, that kind of thing.
Okay, I guess I did try, in the sense that we had a keyboard at one point in my house, and went for a couple of lessons, but I think it just didn't vibe with me. Maybe the instructor wasn't the right instructor. Maybe I was getting too frustrated with the slow progression of, when you pick up a new skill, and you're just why does this sound terrible? And I've done it 10 times, it still sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Maybe the thing with sports was that many of them were team-based sports.
Yeah.
And I was just there for the fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for the mastery, as we said. I was just there to be with my friends.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the element there that kept me going.
Yeah, sounds good. What about dancing? I can imagine you as a dancer.
No. I'm just so inflexible, and I'm pretty tall for Indian standards.
Yeah.
Here I'm pretty average, or
How
even
tall are you
short.
in CM? Don't know.
178 or something like that.
Wow, you're actually pretty tall.
Is that right though? I don't know.
Don't worry, we can stand up after this
5'8" and a half.
I need
What
the
does that mean?
version.
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
So
all good. It
in
looks
India,
like we're the
pretty
same
tall.
kind
Yeah,
of.
here we're like the same.
Same height.
So I don't know, maybe it was that and just me being a bit awkward with my own body. Like, I don't know. Dancing was not a thing for me. Nah.
Yeah, okay, cool. And then tell me more about your personality growing up. Were you a very shy little kid or?
Pretty quiet, I would say. I am an only child. So it's not like I grew up with a lot of noise and like siblings and fighting. I
Grew up
didn't
with
have
all
that.
your parents' love.
Pros is that.
Yeah.
I guess then you think about it the other way, it's like I was constantly not monitored, but like you kind of just want to do your own thing sometimes, but like they're like, you're my only child, like
Where's Riddhi?
Yeah, so like let me know where she is constantly.
Yeah, overprotective
you know?
parents?
Potentially. Because I guess it's like, you know, he's the only child, you better protect them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What was the question?
It's just that more in terms of your personality. So you were quite shy. Were you very adventurous?
Not really. I think that sort of picked up once I had a bit.
Yeah,
I left the bubble, and I was like, it's actually okay for me to do things by myself, and let me just try this. What's the worst that can happen? So, like, that's definitely become a part of my personality now. But back then, I was quite reserved. I enjoyed hanging out with friends and things, but I wouldn't say I was the rule breaker then.
Oh, no. Then. Wow. Can't wait to explore the spicy stuff later.
Sure.
Sounds good. Tell me more about how you sort of like fit in the school environment. So you were the sort of, you know, more on the sporty-ish side. If the others, were you very academic? Were you popular already?
I think I'm going to modestly say I fell in the middle of the pack.
Nice.
I was not aiming for the 100 out of 100. Nor did I don't think I had the capability to do that. But I think I was pretty smart, generally interested in academics until a certain point.
Yeah.
If it was something that I was interested in, I would really sort of be curious about it, be open to learning things about it, you know. But yeah, turns out chemistry is my arch nemesis, and
I can strongly relate with you. Maths and chemistry.
That does
Physics
not work.
was a no-go.
Physics was okay for me.
Oh, okay. I'm proud of you.
It got really difficult in terms of the actual concepts that they were teaching us in high school, like year 11 and 12. Really complicated. And perhaps not taught as well as it should have been taught.
Yeah.
But it was just generally something I was interested in. Not that I did well all the time, but biology was my favorite.
Very nice. Yeah, cool. And just wondering, in terms of careers at that time, you know, what was sort of floating through your mind, if anything? Did you get any sort of Asian parental pressure of what you should be? Doctor, lawyer, engineer?
I was in a class full of doctors, lawyers, engineers.
A lot of pressure.
In terms of my parents sort of pressuring me, I was lucky enough to not have that sort of in the back of my head saying, you have to do this and you have to be this particular person. So quite lucky in the sense that, there wasn't like one thing that my parents expected me to be and I just had to do it.
Very good.
Which is how I ended up in psychology, right? Like that would not be something a parent would be like, you have to pursue psychology. But because I loved biology, I was in a class full of people doing medicine, like trying to go for medicine and engineering because you had to take biology. So I know now a lot of friends who are now doctors and dentists and engineers and architects and lawyers, just like
that's pretty useful.
Very useful.
If you need to sue someone, you got your lawyer friend. You know, if you're sick, then
but they're like back home now. And some of the doctors, I'm like, would I go to you if I was sick?
Questionable.
I know what you were like when you were 15. Like,
don't hold it against them, Riddhi.
That is true. Give them a chance.
Cool. And one more thing about high school. So in India, what's sort of like the schooling system like? Do you guys have very long hours? Because, what time do you start, finish, and would you be the kind of kid where, you know, after class you'd have to go back and do like a bit of studying?
Definitely. I think I can't say I know what it is like right now because it's been a few years.
Tell us about the good old days.
The good old days. It was a pretty, like a very highly academic sort of path, and you're just like doing the things to do to, you know, pass the next test and do well on the next test. So it's very like one test to the other, you're kind of bouncing around, completing your assessments and things. Timings, it was like 8 a.m. start. I would, because I told you I live like 3 minutes away, it would be like a 2-minute run.
Oh,
so I'm like leaving home at 7:58, like running.
And that's how you got your, you know, your sporting, your
This is
you know,
good.
soccer, football, just a bit of
I can do this with my friends. But then it would finish like 2:53 p.m. Like this is like maybe high school, not the primary. Maybe that finishes 2:30, 2 o'clock. But the last 2 years of high school, I was really sort of overwhelmed. With the
worst 2 years of your life.
I'm going to say yes because, you know, I don't want to say that I don't know what my worst 2 years are. Maybe it's like coming up. But no, I'm going to have great years in the future. So, yes. You know, just let me dump that in the past. Just like the amount of pressure just to do well. And I was lucky, as I said, my parents weren't the ones putting that pressure. So I can't even imagine what it'd be like for someone whose parents were like, you know, you have to do this and you have to get 98 here. Or, just crazy. So I had physics, you know, extra classes on like multiple days from 6 a.m. in the morning.
Ooh.
6 to like 7:30, and then you like get changed, get ready, go to school. And then after that I'd have maths, like extra class. And then you'd get home by 9 p.m. So that's like the whole day.
That's pretty average for most days. You'd have some
like
sort of
every
tuition.
alternate. Yes, it's like 3 days of the week. That was my day. And then the other alternate day, I would have chemistry class after school. So you come back by like 6 or something. And then you have to do your homework after that because it's, you know.
You gotta practice to make good use of it.
And that's when I sort of dropped my football. Like I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't actually go through the trainings and show up for all the tournaments and things. There was no way. So I just feel like I was just pushed out of everything except for just do well in your studies. But then I think there's when I grew my consciousness of like, I don't like this, and I'll just have to go through this because, you know, this is what I need to do to get through to the other end. But then once I get through the other end, then I really get to make my own decisions and like, I can have a choice in the next few things I do. And I was like, you know, going to university was always a thing that was going to happen. But I was like, I'm going to call the shots here. I can't sort of just be like, I'll say yes to this, or, you know, this sounds good, so I'll do it. I think that was what was happening mentally.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. Once I get over this, I'm like driver of my own destiny person. Depending on, to some extent. It's not like I have money to like, still a poor kid.
And a kid. Kids the right, because, you know, I'm still like, I was 17 when I started uni, so like literally not even adult.
And tell me more about like, how did you choose to go to Hong Kong for university?
It does sound random, right, when you think about it. The first time I heard about this particular university was when they came over to our school to give a presentation, kind of like a marketing, like...
You fell for it.
I totally fell for it, right? Because it was like, as you said, the light at the end of the tunnel, and I was like, oh, you can do this, you can just go abroad and like live your best life, and so I was like hooked on that idea.
Yeah.
And then what they said in that presentation was, we'll give you a scholarship if you score above a certain mark here, and if you're doing well, and that was pretty important for me because
money,
exactly. I couldn't afford to like just pay up front and just go wherever I wanted. I really needed the scholarship. So then that gave me some sort of motivation to be like, I'll just have to get through this, and I need to do, well to actually make my own decisions coming forth. And so I was lucky enough to get that scholarship. And this was a liberal arts kind of college. No, it has different colleges within the university. So this was a degree in liberal arts, and my major was psychology. And so because it was liberal arts, I could kind of like do electives of like different things that I was kind of interested in, which was my idea of not following the Indian education system of like, we'll just give you these things and you have to learn them and you have to regurgitate them in an exam kind of thing. Yeah.
Fair enough.
In Hong Kong, super cool. Like my parents, I had been to Hong Kong once before as a child. Not that really, because I was a little child, but that was my first trip abroad.
Oh, so
as a little kid. So maybe there was some connection there.
Yeah, little did your parents know.
No one did.
The scene.
Maybe, it's interesting to think about it like that.
Hindsight. Yeah, and so tell me, why did you choose psychology?
Honestly...
To know thyself.
Maybe. I don't really have a great answer. Like, it was not like, oh, I really need to know how to do this, or... I think it was... as you said, learn about the mind, because in biology, which was my favorite subject in school, there was a lot of learn about the body and the physical sort of things, anatomy and all that. But I was wondering, well, what about the mind? Because if all of us have the same anatomy and all of us, built the same way, then what makes us different?
Yeah, that's actually interesting.
And what is happening in the mind of someone who's, taking this and running away in a completely different direction versus someone who's experiencing it or living this thing in a different way. Like, what is motivating them? What are people's motivations to do things differently, I guess? And then also being in Hong Kong and just realizing the differences in culture, and we're still anatomically very similar, but like it's a whole new world with like language and how you grow up and how that affects you, and how you make those decisions later in your life. And so I had no answers to those sort of questions, and I think that's why I sort of went down that path. It was just curiosity. It wasn't like I want a career in psychology. It was just more like curiosity.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love your fascination with people.
I guess there is that connection with the human aspect of things. Even now, like sometimes some of my work involves like going into tech quite a bit, but in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about the human element, where, what happens to a person who's using this tech, and what is their experience. That's what I'm more interested in.
Yeah, that's cool. And also tell me about leaving your bubble to HK.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, it was great. I think it worked out. Because, sometimes you do something and you're like, well, this is not for me. But this was definitely for me. Big city vibes, I love.
Yeah.
I love the fact that in Hong Kong you can just catch a train and go anywhere at any time of day or night. Oh no, we've lost the light.
No,
oh, there we
right.
are.
This is kind of my routine.
you know the steps to take.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, cool. And then how about your parents? Were they sort of reluctant to let their only child go to Hong Kong?
I'm sure that there's that element of like, oh, going so far away, why don't you stay closer kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think, again, just definitely lucky to have supportive parents that were like, okay, if this is what you want to do and you've got the scholarship, so you've kind of earned it, you know, if this is really the path you want to take, then yeah, it would be wrong to sort of stop you in your tracks. Which has been obviously great, and just having that separation taught me, well, I don't need to be dependent on other people all the time, and just building my own independence. Since I was like 17. So yeah, now I'm very comfortable sort of doing my own thing and living by myself, and yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And do you have any sort of tips for maybe high school students that want to, you know, go overseas for uni? How's that like? Do you, I've heard that a lot of people, when they go to a new country for studying, they generally go through that cycle of like, you know, like, wow, everything is so exciting. And then they go through like the depression, and then they like get through it, and they're like, yeah. Did you have that sort of like cycle, or was it all like, woohoo, you know, this is an adventure, I've left the bubble?
I think that cycle will happen. That cycle is inevitable. Nothing is always perfect all the time. I think it's like partially what you make of it that might help. It's about seeing if it really works for you. Like if everyone around you is saying, oh, this is so great, like, don't you love this? But if you don't, and like deep down, if you're not comfortable with something, or if actually you'd rather be closer to your parents because that's something that's really important to you and it's like really bugging you on the inside, but on the outside you kind of have to just smile and go along, then you know, maybe something needs to change there. And I think it's important to speak up and maybe find people around you who you're comfortable to share those thoughts with and just talk it through, because yeah, it like going abroad at such a young age is not for everyone. I'm not saying that just because it worked for me, it's everyone leave your house right now
and go to like Hong Kong, especially.
Specifically go to Hong Kong.
Marketing campaign continue.
Yeah, I'm just marketing. I should get a job at that university and another job there.
Yeah, sounds good. And what about sort of making friends, like, you know, in a new country? How was your experience?
Yeah, it was challenging, right? Because like growing up in the same place and going to school for 14 years straight, you've made some solid friends. Yeah. And so now it's like the cycle is just starting again of like you need to
from zero
make friends. And also, how are you presenting yourself? Like you have this opportunity when no one knows you. How are you gonna like portray yourself? Because you can completely change yourself if you want to. Like if you just want to try different things, you can. It's uni, like everything works kind of thing. So I wouldn't say I was like swimming in friends immediately. No, I was not. But I think proximity helped because I take some time to like get familiar with people, not like instantly so magnanimous. And, you know,
magnetic.
Like,
oh, there's really drawn to
just like attracting people 24/7. No, I usually take some time. So I think with time, people I saw quite often were just my classmates, obviously. So made a connection there, and I was living in the dorms.
That helped.
A student resident, so that helped a lot because that was my immersion with local students a lot more, and the way they live and the way we have to sort of do things together. And luckily my student residents, we call them halls, so like one building is called like Hall 4, which was my building. It was a very
please visit.
Put it on your Google Maps. Was very active in terms of events, a lot of cultural celebrations, which was really nice for me to experience different cultures. And so a lot of Indian festivals were celebrated, but also lots of Chinese festivals, a lot of like Christian festivals, Islamic, so everything. because student residence is like where everyone stays. It's very multicultural. And we had exchange students. So my university was very kind of good at doing those sort of international relation things. So we had a lot of international students coming in, living in the campus with us, and got a lot of exposure to that. And yeah, so that's how I made friends. I don't think I had like a huge list of friends. I'm still in contact with like a handful of them, even though we're like dispersed all over the world now. But yeah, really valuable friendship, especially because you're going through so many firsts together. And so many difficult like coursework or whatever it is. It's not always easy, those sort of big milestones, right? But at least you did it with some friends, and so
good memories.
Yeah, good memories. Yeah, mixed. You know,
this shared.
Exactly. It's not always positive. Even though that's what like you might see other people presenting out front, but like yeah, there's definitely highs and lows, and so it's good to be able to share both of those things with good friends.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you pick up a little bit of Canto while you were there?
I knew like a few words.
Okay.
Honestly, no. I said knew, not no. I knew like thank you or like Mgoy.
Whoa, that's the point.
Thank
Continue.
Let's say you say Mgoy when you're like excuse me also, so that was great. Just the double usage. And you like hot milk tea because like at the canteen the lady who's like handing out drinks, I don't think she knew English that well, so like hot milk tea. Honestly, like it was so hard to just hear a conversation and pick anything up. There was no way, just because the tones so difficult. And don't even get me started with the script, like not gonna happen. I learned a bit of Japanese, like just out of interest, and I was like, this is very difficult, but still easier to pick up than Kenya. Like,
crazy. That's cool. And how did you enjoy the food? Did you miss like all the Indian food when you went to?
Yes, but then I slowly realized that I love eating food in general, and so it's not it's not going to stop me. Yeah, just because it's not Indian food or like food I grew up with, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop eating food. And in fact, the food in Hong Kong is just amazing. You can find anything you want. Obviously, it comes at a price point when you're like looking for really good Western food, for example. You have to pay a certain amount, not a student budget for that. But you find places, you find some cheap eateries, and you keep going there. Local dim sum, just yum cha life is so good. So yeah, I think food, it opened up something in me where it's like, I need to explore, I need to try, this is so good, my palate is evolving.
Wow, very awesome and multicultural palate.
Yes, and so like Korean, whatever it is, like mainland Chinese.
If it's edible, give it to Riddhi.
and tasty, okay? Not just edible, it has to be delicious.
Girl has standards.
yes, correct.
Wow, too good. Also, tell me about going on exchange to McGill University.
Woo! So, because my university was like really good at those international exposures, in my third year, I was like, I want to go to exchange, even though like I feel like, you know, I've moved to Hong Kong, so like, but still, because then I didn't have to pay for, if I went to an expensive uni, I didn't have to pay the tuition fees for that university. I could just still stay on my scholarship. So it's like, this is a great deal. So then I applied for a few different places, but my first choice was McGill in Montreal, which is like a whole different world. Like I'd never been to that side of the world, right? And cold. Canada happens to be pretty cold when winter comes around. So that was a whole different experience. Amazing. I loved exchange. It's like the pressure's low, the expectations are low. You just have to pass. And so I really gave myself that, like, I really don't care what the grade is, as long as you pass and you learn something. If you're interested in it, like, go for it. Like, but it's not about the studies this semester. It's really about just exploring this whole new place and just soul searching and just also like.
Did you find anything?
Big announcement. I found that I love fall, autumn.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Like I was just like, how is this real? Like I just hadn't experienced that before. I was like, wow, beautiful. But I also found a boyfriend.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah. I was like, it's time.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, that was where I met my
I was gonna
continues to be my partner. It's been like 6 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So go to Montreal to buy a boy. Oh.
Well, he came for free. But it's funny because he was also on exchange.
You guys would have never met.
No. Yeah. So we were in the same like orientation group together.
Yeah.
Because we on exchange. So he was studying at the University of Melbourne.
Ah.
And he is
Is that
Australian.
why you came to Australia?
Not only, but there's other
okay.
reasons. We'll go to that when you ask me that question later.
Yes.
But so that was that. So it was a lot of exploring Canada. Like did like day trips to Ottawa, Toronto. I didn't have money to go all the way to Vancouver, but still on a student budget. But
so good.
Just the whole atmosphere, experience of people speaking French because it's Montreal, so that was interesting. I did not learn French.
Oui.
Yes, but the thing is that there, when you go into a shop, the shop people say bonjour, hello, and then it's up to how you respond. So if you say hi or whatever, they'll just continue speaking English.
Yeah.
So that was not a big deal. But yeah, Canada would recommend. Beautiful place.
Yeah. That's awesome. And was it just a semester or a year?
Yeah, just a semester.
Yeah,
so it was like
still got
August.
a boyfriend in half a year. That's pretty.
I was like, let's do this. August to December.
Yeah, that's cool. And then, so is it straight after graduating from your bachelor's, you did masters straight away, or?
Pretty much, but there was like a time difference because northern and southern hemispheres have a bit of a delay. So I was at home for about 6 months.
Perfect.
Which was a good like break and just do nothing, just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't have the money to do like what do you call it? Like when people travel after.
It's kind of doing like solo trips around the world.
Yeah, those kind of things. I was just like, I'm just doing that in my parents' house in my bed for 6 months straight.
Low budget holiday.
Yeah,
I
right.
highly recommend.
Honestly, and being fed 3 times a day. Like, what more can you ask?
Yeah. Too good. And then, so was it obvious that you were always going to do a master's?
I think I found out quickly when I was doing my bachelor's in psychology that to get a job and like have a career in psychology, it's like you really need to do a specialization, which means you do have to do a master's. It doesn't mean that you can't like do a bachelor's in psych and then get a job. It just might not be as specialized. And I think I was still at that point, I guess, curious and still wanting to learn a bit more. The bachelor's degree is quite basic, at least the one that I did. So it covers a lot of topics in psych, but then it doesn't go into depth in any of them. So then if you are still curious or want to go down that path, you kind of have to do a master's.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's quite a common pathway for most psych students. Yeah, cool. And then tell me about choosing UQ.
Yeah, UQ was one of the 4 universities I applied to for masters.
Yeah.
I was looking at other countries too. It wasn't just Australia. It was like UK and the US. But I didn't want to go all the way to the US. And UK programs are slightly different in how they're structured. The master's programs, they're a bit shorter, like only 1.5 years, sometimes only 1 year.
Oh.
And I was like, that's like too quick.
Yeah.
But the Australian ones, 2 years, and they give you like placement experiences. And
that's pretty useful.
Yeah, and I was like, I need that. If I have to like jump into a career after masters, I kind of really appreciate work experience where I can like be in a safe space and like maybe make some mistakes, but like learn from them before I get thrown into a full-time job.
Yeah.
So that's why
obviously, your boy.
Yeah, so that was the other thing.
The other big thing? Would you say
yeah, the
50%?
long distance was like
killing you.
short. Well, it was, yeah, obviously it's not ideal, but like, yeah, you want to keep shortening it, not like lengthening the distance. So that was the other thing. He was also doing his master's, but at University of Melbourne.
Yeah.
But University of Melbourne didn't have an org psych program.
Oh, sorry for your loss.
It's fine, but I was like,
college sweetheart.
it's fine. Like, there was a program at Deakin. So if I really wanted to like be in Victoria and like really close gap, I could have gone to Deakin, but
you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't because I actually cared about like what I'm trying to do here. Like,
love a career woman.
Yeah, like it's about my whole life.
Future.
Yeah, so it's like UQ was definitely the best program, and I was like, if I'm getting into this, you might as well just do it. I don't think I'll do another master's again, so like, just go for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you graduated with first class honours. Ooh, hello.
Well, that was my bachelor's.
Yeah?
Yeah. Do we have...
Did you? No, because you wrote a thesis for your master's, and then
the thesis did well. Don't ask. I was like, I'm dreading this question. If you ask me about my thesis, I'm gonna have like PTSD. It was like the year where COVID happened, so that was my thesis year, and my last year of like uni. So
but still first class honours.
I don't know how it happened, but
you should be proud. What kind of reaction is that? A lot of people were inspired by your journey, Riddhi.
It was not an easy journey. Let's just say that. So there was a lot of like uncertainty of like, well, COVID's happening, we can't do our experiment. So it was like a lab-based experiment.
Yeah.
COVID happens, like obviously no one's gonna come to the lab. You had to like change the whole thing, and luckily it was a group thesis where I had like half my cohort, so 7 people doing this together. So I was like, at least if I didn't have these 7 people, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
But at least these group of people were there with me, which was good.
And the thesis topic exploring multiple goal pursuit and complex decision making.
I'm not joking. It was very complex. It took me 6 months to understand what the heck is going on. Yeah. And then the other 6 months, it was like, well, write your thesis. Yeah. And like, So it was a very complicated concept, idea, cognitive psych.
Yeah. Can you give our audience a 1 minute?
No, I can't. I can't actually tell you too much about it, and not because I don't remember. Like, I also don't remember much about it. But it was also in partnership with the ADF. Oh. So it's like the research that we were doing had applicative properties. Is applicative a word? No, it's not. Okay, sure. It was being applied in a different context, but like this is very like grassroots. Let's understand what we're dealing with here. So it's like what happens in terms of decision making when you have a deadline approaching. How does that change the way you make decisions? If you have a lot of time, if you have like 2 weeks to do something, how are you going to do it versus if you just had like 2 days to do the same thing? Like, what happens? Or if you like procrastinate. And so why are you procrastinating? Because you have like too long? Like, is that not the ideal amount of time? And then what happens when you actually have 2 tasks or multiple goal pursuits? You have like 2 things to do, or like more than 2 things to do. How do you juggle your time to make sure that, or are you striving to get all the 2 things done, or are you like, this first thing is actually quite important, so I'm going to like spend all my time and energy on this one, and this one can wait if I have extra time, or so like,
I get you.
What's the framework for people to make that decision? And as you can imagine, that's very complex to like map. How can you predict? I don't know the answer, but this is like a very initial sort of research piece, and that's where we had 7 people looking at different hypotheses based on the same sort of framework.
Wow, so you guys were all sort of working in close collaboration.
Yeah, we all had different research questions. We had different data, but the data pool was the same.
Yeah.
Because it's using the same sort of methodology and framework, but we're asking different questions and we're manipulating data in a different way.
Yeah.
But that's
cool.
That's all I'm willing to talk about. That the lights indicate that we should stop talking about.
Sounds good. Lights, camera, action. Next topic. Okay, tell me about your sort of favorite areas in psychology.
That's a hard one. I feel like I don't really have one that's like.
Psych.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we'd narrowed down into psych.
Okay, my bad.
No. If you're talking about like in the broad psychology, definitely, obviously, psych. I think I knew by my 3rd year in Bachelor's that I was like, okay, well, I need to kind of identify the path that I want to take now, and I kind of went through a process of elimination of like, can I see myself going down clinical psych? Can I see myself going down educational? Like all those different areas of psych, and it was a no until I reached org. I was like, maybe.
Sounds good. Now let's talk about your internship. So you did an internship as a provisional psychologist. Churches of Christ in Queensland. Ooh.
Yeah, so maybe I'll bundle my internships together because it was like one after the other, and they were not very long because they were part of my master's, so this was like the work placements.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first one was at a not-for-profit, and I was looking at diversity and inclusion. So like looking at what's been happening so far, and the fact that we need to have some sort of policy in place and what that looks like, and sort of creating a business case for that. And then moved on to looking at psychometric assessments. And
our favorites.
Yeah. Pros and cons.
How do we get a job, Riddhi? How do we get a job, Riddhi? No, kidding.
Honestly, I hate doing psychometric assessments. Like, they're not fun, right? Like, only a psychopath would think they're fun.
Well said.
But for me, like, luckily, I didn't have to do too many of them. It was just making sure that, what we are collecting, the data that we're collecting from people is actually measuring the thing that we want to measure.
Yeah.
And that it's useful to then sort of predict performance in that role in the future, that sort of stuff. So that's interesting. My 3rd placement was at a boutique consultancy where we looked at evaluations of programs. It was more like government healthcare based programs. So this is like a little bit of a departure from like traditional org psyche work.
Yeah.
But it gave me a sense of, well, if it's a long-term project, then what does that mean end to end? Like, what are the steps involved? How do you collect stakeholder information? What do you do in terms of analysis?
Yeah.
So it got to play a role in that, which was cool.
So it's more businessy?
Yeah, it's more like project-based work. So who kind of like consulting. So it was a consulting company, but very niche and specific to like the type of projects that they would undertake. Yeah.
That's cool. And then tell me about KPMG.
Yeah.
Because you sort of left behind psychology into consulting. How's that decision?
Yeah. It's still, I feel like it still comes into play. I feel like I haven't like left those shoes or those brain cells behind. In between, like when I finished my master's and I came to KPMG, I had 1 year of working from home. I was like contracting here and there. It was quite psyche, but then I missed team-based work, and I missed this sort of project-based work where you're like collaborating and you're like bouncing ideas off each other. Because previously it was kind of like they give you a task and you do it by yourself and give it back to them. So that was my that was, I guess, why I was interested in consulting. Not that I was like, I only want to do external consulting, because internal consulting is a thing too. But I knew that this is a path that some people take. I knew that someone from my master's cohort who had graduated 1 year before me was at KPMG.
Oh,
so
perfecto.
yeah, and so I could see that, this is a viable option. Let me see how it goes. And so I've been here it's been over a year now. Which is,
congrats. You're actually pretty new, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
Since February, so around like 9 months.
Yeah, I feel like everybody is like, there's so many people who like started around this time.
Yeah, that's cool. And how has sort of the learning curve been? A lot of people, when they come as like a lateral hire and they don't have that like grad, building block experience.
Yeah. True. Yeah, I think that was definitely something that was missing, as you said, like lateral hire and but still being a consultant. So it's not like I have previous Big Four consulting experience that I can just like take and run with. But I think it's been so good in terms of my team is really nice. Everyone is just so supportive, and they have this. I don't feel afraid to sort of ask questions and just be like, actually, I don't know what that is because I haven't done that before. So can you actually help me understand? So I feel like I've consciously made the effort to like ask questions, find out. Like if you just have to do a bit of a search and get the answer.
Yeah.
It's worth it, because once you know, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's been good so far. I still do a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning to be done. I feel like once I stop learning, then things will become boring.
Yeah.
I have to keep learning something new, or maybe developing something that maybe is not a strength.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many avenues you can take as a consultant here that I'm very comfortable to be like, if I don't like the look of this, can I like try this? And I'm sure there will be ways to do that.
Yeah, that's cool. And just wondering, so I feel like a lot of your experience would more align with, what was the other team? People and Change.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how was I know that the teams like are quite sort of like different, but how did you did you apply to both, or how did it kind of come to fruition?
When I was looking for a role, I didn't go through the grad stream, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't an opening within People and Change.
Yeah. Sorry for your loss, guys.
Well, look, I'm still a part of KPMG, and in HR I work very closely with PNC, right?
Yeah, they do.
A lot of the times I'm working with people in Change, which is awesome.
But yeah,
HR was looking. So was another team called Behavioral Risk.
Ooh,
and I was like interested in both of those places because I could see the application of org psych expertise in both those places. But ultimately with HR I was like, I bring that org psych lens, but I actually don't know too much about HR in terms of, well, what does HR do? What does a good HR department look like? And I didn't want to do HR. We're not doing HR, which is great. I don't want to do that. But I think it's just been so interesting. So there's that element that I do know, but then there's so much that I don't know, and just picking that up and sort of molding those two things together has been really cool. And I do think about what People in Change do and what HR does, and I want to sort of be in that position where we can bring the two spheres together and actually collaborate in a bit more like structured way.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm happy to like how it ended up. It's not like there were like huge decisions to be made. I was just like, let's try this out.
Yeah, just give it a shot. Yeah, that's cool. So what exactly does HR advisory do?
Yeah, so we advise to to client organizations who are looking to sort of improve the way that they do HR or provide HR services, where we look at HR as a service provider and the rest of the business as customers. So think of the way they are interacting with the HR systems that they use.
So you do a little bit of HR tech.
We also, we have a strong sort of overlap with HR tech. We work a lot with tech advisory, tech implementation, but we bring that sort of people element of like, well, sure, it's all great to have a beautiful system that's like cutting edge, but then if you don't train the people to use it right, then they're not going to buy into the change, and then there's that change element too, which also, you know, PNC does a lot of. So we also work with PNC there. But yeah, it's all about the employee experience, and that's a very comfortable place for me to like bring my expertise into.
Yeah, that's cool. And so what is a day in the life? I know you're going to say it's always different, but...
Yes, a lot of PowerPoint.
Yeah.
You would know. Like, I feel like we would have similar sort of... would we?
True, but the audience doesn't know.
Yeah, that's true. Usually as a consultant, there is an element of... You might be thrown into supporting managers or directors who are trying to get a message across to the client, basically. So if it's through a workshop where you're trying to educate the client on best practice, or you're trying to collect information from them to make informed decisions or to advise them, and okay, you know, this is what your current state looks like, this is what we think you should do to achieve your future state, and create those stepping stones for them. So as a consultant, you might be collecting and analyzing that data or presenting it back in a way that makes sense to the client. We have a lot of resources here that make life very easy. Yeah, like it's not like you're coming up with templates and frameworks from scratch, which I thought was a huge benefit of being in a big corporate company like ours.
Recycle last year's, recycle someone else's work. Perfect.
Yeah, as long as it works and it's sending the right message and you're tailoring it to the client's needs, because ultimately it's all about, well, are you supporting the client in the way that is, I guess, expected or beyond the expectations even. But yeah, it's also a lot of networking and just meeting different people and learning from different people. Directors and associate and just senior leadership have so much experience. They've lived so many more years sometimes. And you're just like, well, what have you been doing? And they'll like tell you these list of things like, whoa, you are so knowledgeable.
That's cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. In terms of your work breakdown, what percentage do you think is like, you know, emails, like meetings, presentations, PowerPoint, et cetera, to put you on the spot?
Yeah, I don't know.
Mostly report writing?
I think PowerPoint. We use more PowerPoint than we do like text.
Ah, okay.
But sometimes the report is within PowerPoint, so like bring the two together. So I think that is like the majority.
80% probably.
Which is 60.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So then maybe like 20-25 is like meeting and discussing some. It depends on the project too. Like, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
It depends on like what the client's like and if they want like daily check-ins or like status updates every day or whatever it is. So yeah, it depends. But then it's also like workshops and when you go and actually like speak to the client about things or ask them questions. And then I don't think there's a lot of emailing, at least for me. I'm not the one like approving stuff or like reviewing stuff.
Wait till you get to manager.
So for me, I have a pretty organized email like foldering system.
Nice.
But I'm not at the level where I'm getting like 3 emails per second, so like for me it's fine.
Manageable. Cool. So let's touch on hobbies. So what kind of genre of books do you like to read? Any favorite authors?
I don't have a favorite author. I think I grew up reading a lot. As a kid I was like very into reading. I was into crime fiction.
Wow.
Yeah, like I started with like Enid Blyton, and it
Yes,
went like all the way to
Famous Five,
like
Famous Four.
oh
blah, 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 blah.
Secret Seven.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so that was where I started. Then you know you move on to Nancy Drew, and this is amazing. And then you move to Agatha Christie. Loved her books. Then what's that author that's like everywhere, the crime fiction guy? Oh, I forget his name.
I have no idea, sorry.
That's fine. Anyway, so that was like my whole childhood sort of growing up. Now I'm not into crime fiction as much, but also I don't have enough time to read, which sucks. Or like maybe I don't like prioritize reading. Look, you have time to do whatever you want. Yeah. It's just maybe I'm too tired at the end of the day or like whatever it is. But I try to read a little bit every night. Yeah. So right now I'm reading Animal Farm because it turns out I just skipped the whole classics section. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're nearly at the end of the podcast. Just a few more questions. The deep one you've been dreading.
I was dreading the thesis thing.
Yeah. Riddhi, what's the meaning of life to you?
Honestly, what do you think? You tell me.
This is clearly the podcast where I'm interviewing you. I'll tell you after the podcast.
Oh, it was spoilers. I mean, okay. I don't know what the meaning of life is. I think it's if you look at it like individually, then it's about maybe how do you create your happiness in the little time that you're here, because don't forget that you just have a little bit of time. So how do you want to make the most of it? It really depends on every individual person, you know, what is their means of being happy, I suppose. And that's why we're also different, because we're like achieving different things, we're striving for different things. So I feel like there isn't like one meaning that everyone should be working towards. It's kind of just like what is it for you? And if you figure that out, I think that's meaningful. Yeah,
that's cool. And so, Riddhi, if you won the lottery tomorrow, what would you do differently about your life? Imagine
that. Have money, that would be different.
Yeah, because it sounds like throughout your whole life story, it's just like, you know, would go to like X location, but just don't have enough money. Need to get the scholarship just because don't have enough money.
So travel would be, it's always been like such a huge interest, and so that would just become so much easier. Yeah. You know, when you have money. There would be a lot of that. I feel like just because I've grown up with a very like what do you say, like I've had this, my relationship with money is very like careful, like very thoughtful,
very frugal.
I don't know. If you see my online shopping history these last few weeks,
we can explore that in the next podcast.
No, we should really not. But I think I would go into investing a little bit more, make some more financially wise decisions, so that I know it's there, but it's also working for me.
Yeah.
You know, I just
that passive income life, Riddhi.
And so that then I can freaking have like I can buy a house. What would that be like? And maybe invest into. I care about the planet and the fact that it's going downhill. So maybe invest in something to
help the environment.
Yeah, just make people live more sustainably, I feel like. And because it's coming from the corporate level, like most of the crap that's been put out into the world is mostly by big companies who only care about making money. So I don't know, maybe if I had money I'd have a bigger part to play in changing some of that.
Sounds good. Someone please sponsor Riddhi.
Please give me money so I can travel. sustainably. Maybe,
Yeah.
you know, maybe we can fly using other things than jet fuel. Maybe that would be something I could invest in. You know?
Yeah, sounds
Maybe
good.
unicorns, just like, or like Pegasus.
Yeah. Don't forget me when you become rich.
Genetically modify horses so that they have wings and they can fly you around.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. And the final question is, what is an ideal day in the life for you? It can be work related, it can be non-work related.
Well, it's definitely not work related.
Okay.
Yeah, ideal day does not have work in it.
Yeah.
It would be get a nice sleep in. I'm not a morning person, so mornings don't work. And maybe go get a nice brunch, coffee with some friends. And then just have the free time to do whatever. Maybe go to an art gallery or a museum, or to the beach. That would be nice. Go back home, read a book, take a nap. I like naps.
Solid.
And yeah, just do whatever. I think that if I was rich, if I had the money, one of my hobbies would be like pick up painting again. Like I used to be artsy as a child, but it's like completely dropped off. And paint is expensive.
Yeah.
And feel like that would be something that would be really cool to get into again. It's just painting and just do something creative. You know, keep your mind engaged.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this is the end of the podcast. Want to say bye?
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.